So I watched Avatar: The Last Airbender. Not Avatar: The Last Airbender, but Avatar: The Last Airbender. Oh, and by the way, I'm gonna spoil some things in the series. Like, I'll blatantly talk about when I'm gonna spoil something blatantly, and then a lot of the other spoilers are just gonna be things that you'll definitely know if you've seen the animated series. So I don't even know that that counts as that much of a spoiler, but yeah, if you've never seen Avatar: The Last Airbender, like the animated series, and if you have not watched this Netflix adaptation, might not want to watch this video, but just wanted to put that out there. This has been a heavily anticipated series, for better or worse. You know, at first we heard, oh my gosh, the original creators are a part of it. Maybe they're finally going to do a faithful adaptation. Then we hear that the original creators left and, oh no, it's not going to be a faithful adaptation. Then we got the trailer and we were like, oh my gosh, it's going to be a faithful adaptation. Then we heard some other things about the show and, oh no, it's not going to be a faithful adaptation. But now we have actually seen the first season. And what are my thoughts? Yeah, it was okay. As far as it being faithful or not faithful, if I'm being completely honest, I kind of don't care about that question. Like, whenever I go into, whether it be a remake of a movie, whether it be an adaptation of a book, of a comic book, or of an animated series, all I really care about is it good? Like, I'm not watching the Halo show being like, Master Chief took off his helmet, or Master Chief isn't a virgin anymore. As an Xbox gamer, I can't relate to him. By the way, I'm sure Halo fans have more substantive critiques of the show, but that's all I hear. And so that's the first thing I want to address with the Netflix Avatar adaptation. If you are not okay with them deviating from the source material, and if you're going to autistically point at the screen and go, that's not how it happened in the cartoon, then yeah, you'll probably hate this, because this is not a straight up one-to-one remake of the cartoon. You know, the original cartoon is a 20-minute season with 25-minute episodes. This is an 8-episode season with like hour-long episodes. And basically what they did was they would take different episodes and just sort of like mishmash them into hour-long episodes. And I didn't hate that at all. I actually thought it was a really interesting experience to watch. Like, I don't really want an adaptation of something to be one for one, because I'm just going to be like, yep, I've seen that. Yeah, it's happening again. I really enjoyed the Last of Us adaptation, but for a lot of that show, I was just kind of going like, there we go again. Yeah, I remember that from the game. Yep, that happened. Like, I think one of the big reasons why the third episode was my favorite was because it was a complete departure from that section of the game, and I didn't know what exactly was going to happen with Bill and Frank. I was surprised. But, I mean, that probably was also just the best episode of the series, and, you know, most well-written, the best acted, and whatnot. But I do also just think that the fact that I was experiencing something new had something to do with it. And so I was actually, like, kind of excited whenever they would do something new and different in this Avatar series, whenever they would combine the Omashu episode with the Jet episode, you know, whenever we would get like a flashback of Azula and Ozai that we never got in the series, whenever we would get a flashback of Iroh and Zuko that we never got in the animated series. I was always kind of excited when something like that would happen. But again, just to be clear, if you just want a one-to-one remake of the cartoon translated into live action, you're not going to get that here. Another thing that I actually liked about the show is the production value. This is a very expensive series, and you can definitely see it. Appa's just there. He's flying around. Momo is just there for a lot of it. You know, these fully CGI creatures. Like, they're always bending. There really aren't any points where there are like contrived reasons for why they can't bend in this episode. If this was like an adaptation on the CW, I'm sure there would have been like episodes where they're like, we're not bending in this episode for whatever contrived reason. That doesn't really happen here. And I was especially impressed like in the finale, you know, when they adapt the finale of the first season, and that war is just a full-on war. You get the big kaiju water monster. I was like, God damn, you guys did the thing, didn't you? Now, does it always look the best? No, like, they use the volume a lot in this show. There are a lot of times where it's like, yeah, like, the background is really blurry and out of focus, and it's not really done with like artistic intent. It's done because they're standing on the volume. But I'm more forgiving of it in this instance because it is a globe-trotting show, and that is a pretty ambitious thing to try to do on TV. So for the most part, I thought it was very good. I mean, I don't know. Maybe I'm not a production designer. Maybe they could have made it look as good as Game of Thrones in terms of building sets and whatnot, and maybe they didn't have to use the volume as much as they did. But as someone that is kind of trying to see behind the curtains and maybe sympathizing with the ambition of this show, I was okay with how it looked. And I also kind of wanted to address sort of the controversy that happened a little bit before the series released, where they kind of mentioned that they were taking out sort of the more regressive elements of the series regarding Sokka's sexism, which got the fan base a little heated. They really shouldn't have come out and said that, because that stuff basically is there. Like, yes, do they tamper down Sokka? To an extent, yeah, but I actually kind of like what they did in place of it. The minor spoiler, but honestly, it's more so like, instead of Sokka being humbled, it's more so about Suki being like socially challenged, I guess we'll say. And that's how their relationship kind of bonds. And it's like, yeah, it's different. Do I think that they couldn't have done the sexist Sokka storyline? I think they could have, and I don't think that would be problematic. In fact, them taking it out of this Netflix adaptation is inherently less progressive because you're not getting that progressive storyline, which sexist Sokka was. So, but either way, what we got in place of that I actually thought was really cute. So I'm okay with it. And then later on in the series, again, minor spoilers, I'll just say it. We get the sexist waterbender thing with the Northern Water Tribe. So honestly, all of the controversy about that, kind of overblown. Did they shoot themselves in the foot by bringing it up? Abso-fucking-lutely. I don't know. I mean, they're children doing press tours, so I guess I shouldn't be too hard on them, but you just shouldn't have brought that up. Now, where it becomes a bit more of a mixed bag, I would say, are the performances. And I don't think that there are any, like, standout, like, overwhelmingly bad performances. I think, honestly, most of them felt like kind of a mixed bag. Like, sometimes the kid who played Aang, I was like, oh, he's doing a really great job. And then other times when he has more dramatic moments, I'm like, I don't know about this. Oh, you're a child actor. Oh, you're not very good. But it was never overwhelmingly bad. It was just like, okay, you're a kid, I get it. Same goes for the actor who played Sokka and Katara. But even like some of the adult actors, like, I don't know, like some of Uncle Iroh's lines of dialogue weren't particularly great. I thought Zuko had some pretty poor moments as well. So I also do wonder, did some of it just come down to direction? Maybe. I don't know. I do wonder about that. And I think as far as the criticisms go, I kind of mentioned it in the beginning, but it just never quite captured the magic of the cartoon. I was never in love with these iterations of the Avatar gang or Zuko and Iroh. I think that this show also does a lot of telling and maybe not enough showing. Like, we are kind of told that Katara has developed into a great waterbender, but I feel like we never really saw that evolution as much as we did in the show. In the live action adaptation, she gets the scroll and she's practicing over the course of the series. But I feel like in the animated series, and again, maybe it's just because there were more episodes, but I feel like we see her putting her practicings into use a lot more. In the show, it feels like she gets the scroll. I don't know that she uses her waterbending nearly enough for me to really feel like she's becoming a better waterbender. To then, like, at the end of the series, she's just flat out waterbending all over the place. And you get, like, the waterbending master being like, you are actually a great waterbender. And I'm like, I don't know I don't know if we feel that in the show. You know, I would say the same for, like, Aang, for example, where I feel like we're told a lot that he's a goofy kid. And we see him being a goofy kid a lot. But, again, in the animated series, they spend a lot of time with Aang being a goofy kid and, you know, forgetting his responsibilities. In the animated series, we get a little bit of him being a goofy kid, but he's never really bailing on his responsibilities. That whole arc doesn't quite come to fruition. I feel like they kind of substitute that for other things where I feel like they put more focus on Aang coming into his own as an avatar because we see him getting told a bunch of different things by a bunch of different avatar spirits and by a bunch of different people in the real world. And I feel like by the end of the show, it's really more so him coming into his own as an avatar. So he almost has a different arc, I would argue, than Aang in the original series, where he's not so much learning to accept his responsibilities. He's more so coming into his own, accepting the responsibilities in his own way, if that makes any sense. Which isn't bad, it's just different, and it just felt a little jarring watching it. But yeah, then as far as Uncle Iroh and Uncle and Zuko is concerned, I don't have a ton of issues like philosophically with all the decisions that they made. I just think that some of the execution of it could have been a little better. You know, some of the emotional beats didn't quite work, but then there were other emotional beats that I thought worked quite well. Like they show more flashbacks with Zuko and Iroh than I remember them showing in the cartoon, that I actually thought did a really great job in fleshing their story out. They do an interesting thing with Zuko's crew that sort of connects the crew more to Zuko and his journey that I don't necessarily remember being a thing in the animated series, and so I thought that was pretty cool. And yeah, you know, they also do an interesting thing where they add Azula into the story. I didn't mind what they did with Azula. Like, they didn't just straight up insert her as a character going after the Avatar gang. We really more so just see her in the Fire Nation, and we get some more context as to where her mind is at before she actually gets introduced into the second season, which I don't mind at all. I actually thought it was all pretty interesting what they did with her. And so yeah, overall, I think it's a solid adaptation. I think it does its own thing in a lot of ways, right? Translating like a 25-minute episode per episode cartoon into an hour-long drama that's 8 episodes instead of 25. I think it does it decently well. I think it makes decisions that it feels like it has to, and I think they, for the most part, work. And I do think that they are trying to be faithful to the essence of the show. So I think if you're an Avatar fan and you're just not autistically trying to compare the decisions all the time, I think you can find enjoyment here. And yeah, and if you've never seen the cartoon, I think you'll have a decent enough time with this. You'll probably enjoy it pretty well. Although, do I think the cartoon is better? Yeah. So it's like, would I say just go ahead and watch the cartoon if you've never consumed any of this? Yeah, that I probably would say that. But yeah, I also think you'll probably enjoy the series well enough. So let me know what you thought about the series if you've seen it. Let me know if you disagree with any of my criticisms, which of course you would be wrong because I am objectively correct. Suck my dick. Bye.